How are you guys doing?
Good.
Blessed and highly favored.
That's what I love to hear. This is I'm sorry I wasn't listening. I'm here with two really, really good friends. I got Reginald Thompson to my right, and I got Cristobal to my left. Today's topic, I was put with the topic of the day and kind of been reminiscing. This is a big shout out to my girl Nicole, is change. And then me and Cristobal were kind of talking about it, and you made a good point as far as change, and I kind of want to touch on that. You made the kind of your quote that you need to write down in your journal. You said you got to slow down and smell the flowers, smell the roses. I kind of want you to like explain that a little bit.
Yeah, dude. So it's something that Savannah, my girlfriend, does really well. Is she slows down and likes to appreciate what's happening in the moment. And something I've actually started doing slowly but surely, been integrating into my life, is after weeks of just going hard in the paint of whatever we're doing, I like to just slow down and have gratitude for what's the blessings of life, man, honestly, to keep it short and simple, because that way I feel like I recharge my battery, my spirit, my soul, everything's recharged, because I feel in sync, and I feel like I've just developed this type of mentality where it's not always go, but it's a smooth transition into the next chapter. So that's pretty much where it comes from.
No, I like that, and we can honestly go like two separate ways, because I know this is, and Reggie, this is not, I don't mean to put you in the spot here, but this is something kind of based off of what Cristobal is saying, is your work ethic is crazy, bro. It is crazy, hands down. When it comes to work ethic, if you have not gotten to sit down and have just a good conversation with my boy Reggie, sit down and have a conversation with him. Cristobal can totally attest to this. Like,
for sure,
we've had some conversations with him where, bro, like, your work ethic is crazy. And it's crazy that we're talking about this, is because I feel like that's kind of what Cristobal is saying. That's something that you and I have talked about a lot, and I feel like that implements with change, is we work so much, and I feel like we do not have a sense or an ability to kind of, what Cristobal is saying, is have a time to stop and just have a gratitude, because we feel like we're gonna instantly fall behind. How do you feel about that, honestly?
It's an unhealthy answer, but I just bury myself in more work. Me personally, I'd love to get on this. I'd love to get on this pod and tell you that I have the magic serum for that fear, but unfortunately, I handle it in an unhealthy way. I just bury myself deeper in work, push myself harder, and I don't know that that's going to have a kind ending. I would say that if I could give a piece of advice, this is something I'm learning currently, is surround yourself with people who understand your capacity. That's a word I've been using a lot lately. And make sure that you've given them the freedom and you've given them the comfort to walk into your space and say, hey, you need to shut this down for a second. And so that's what Nicole does for all of us. And I feel as though Sav, and I'm not just speaking on the fact that it's the ladies, but there is such a thing as woman's intuition. So it's good to have some females in your group. I'm looking at a lot of separation, unfortunately, in our society between men and women. And from our dynamic, we have found that this is truly a symbiotic relationship. I think a lot of people try and look for the dichotomy in the relationships between men and women, and I would prefer to look for the symbiotic nature of us working together. And one thing that our mother, Cristobal's and I's mother, and has shared with us many, many times, excuse me, smoke is getting in my eyes, but one thing she had shared with us many, many times is equity as opposed to equality. And I see that now in our relationship with these women, because they may not do the heavy lifting. They may not be trying to take charge of the finances, but best believe that they are adding and contributing in ways that are more than likely, over the longevity of our relationships in our lifetimes, going to equate to more than what we are actually doing as the men.
I love what you said there, as far as they're doing the stuff that is going to equate to more. And I want to touch on that because Nicole and I had a conversation last night, and I hope she doesn't get mad at me for talking about this. She's like shaking her head behind the camera. She's like, no, it's fine. We had this conversation, and you know, she just moved down here, and you and your girl just moved down here, which I'm so excited about. Congratulations on that, by the way.
Thank you.
And excuse me. And she was talking about, and she was getting emotional. She's kind of been struggling. I hope she's able to get on the camera, you know, in an episode or two again, and kind of talk a little bit about that change of moving down here and the kind of like the impact and how she's approaching it. But we were talking. She was getting, for lack of better terms, like anxious. She's just like, you know, this is difficult. I'm not used to having this type of change. I'm not used to being surrounded by people who, you know, show her a lot of love. You know, she's don't want to speak ill on him, but you know, father not really in the picture and stuff, and not having someone that's, you know, loving and pouring into that, and then now having a group of people, not only, you know, men, but as well as people like Sav, you know, Mars, and all the other women in our group. It's like, for her, it's so new, and that it's hard to accept it because she's not used to it, and she's like, this change is just very difficult, and feeling like, what do I have that adds value to this group? I'm just an add-on. Like I'm just Andrew's girlfriend. I'm just here, you know what I mean? And you know, we were talking about it, and she was getting emotional, and she was crying, and I was just listening, and I was like that's not the case. And I was like, if all of us, you know, 6, 7, 8 of us have to remind you that every single day, then we're gonna remind you that every single day. And I told her, I was like, I guarantee you Sav probably feels the same way. She's moved down here. She knows Reggie. Obviously, she has you. You know, she kind of knows me and Nicole, but she probably feels the same. It's like, oh man, like this is a new change for me. I feel anxious. Like I'm just kind of, you know. Yeah. And I don't want to speak for her, but is that kind of like this change? Is it a little difficult? Is it kind of like something that she's trying to get used to?
So I'm gonna talk on that with 2 different points, right?
Yeah.
The first one, early when I was talking about slowing down, and Reggie, you had an ember on your leg, never mind. Early when I talked about slowing down and smelling the roses, it's as simple as taking 5 minutes to write in a journal to get your thoughts out, because for myself, a lot of times my thoughts become clouded, fogged up, and I can't really think clearly. But when I slow down and I write it down, 5 minutes, that's all you need. That's not even taking the whole time out of your day. That's 5 minutes out of your day. You write down what you're feeling, how you're thinking, and you ask questions of why you're thinking that way and how you're going to fix it. Oh my God, that fog is cleared up. So reason I say that is because now with Sav, I wouldn't say she's anxious. She's definitely excited to be here, but she does have a worry about the job situation because she hasn't picked one up. So as her partner, what I'm doing is I'm making sure that my cup is full, so I'm able to pour into hers, because she does the same for myself. So right now I feel like it's a balance. It's not just right now, but it's always been a balance thing for us, where I have to make sure my cup is full and she makes sure her cup is full. So that's why those 5 minutes are important for me, to slow down and smell the roses, so I can have appreciation for what's happening, and I can try to plan ahead to see how I can help Sav. So, you know, and again, she does the same for me. So it's not just me doing all of this. It's a beautiful balance right there.
And I love how you say, fill your cup up. It's an analogy that I've heard many times. You can't fill up your cup. You can't fill up someone else's cup with your cup half empty, because now your cup is going to be a quarter full, and you're not even filling the other person's cup. You have to fill your cup up in order to fill everyone else's. And kind of back to that conversation, I was telling her, I was like, no, I was like, that is why we're here. And I was like, this is a repetition thing, just like anything else. Just like, you know, with change, you have to constantly just repeat the same thing. It's practice to be able to be like, okay, this is how things are going to go. I'm going to get used to it. I was like, the past is the past. Yeah, you're not going to forget about it, but this lack of love that you may have experienced, that's no longer a thing anymore. I mean, we were talking, she's like, I know. And I was like, you add so much more value to this group And I was like, I guarantee you, Reggie is not going to feel upset that he needs to show you more love, or I need to show you more love, or Cristobal or Sav or any of them. I guarantee you, Sav isn't going to feel bad if you're like, hey, can we just have a girls' day? And like, I just need to, spend time. Like, I guarantee you. And that's one of her things is, before getting the job, anxious. Now it's like, okay, she's starting work tomorrow, her first day. But now it's like, okay, like, I've never had friends that have stuck around. They've just kind of stuck for a moment and left. And I was like, well, these aren't those type of people. And so for her, I was telling her, like, this change is a good thing. And it's something that you can't be afraid of because you're getting so much good. And I feel like I've done this. And as I was telling her this, she doesn't know this until now. As I was telling her this, I was like, this reminds me of myself, of when I used to think like, man, this is good. I'm not used to it. Let me push it away because I'm not used to it, because this change is different. And for me, I'm like, I'm almost not talking to myself, but I'm trying to now, as the man in the relationship, is trying to lead properly and let her know, like, hey, like you said, slow down. Let's take each day by day. Let's take what we have here as a group day by day. And then from there, we can kind of move forward with being able to show you, like, things are going to be okay. Like, this change is a good thing. There's nothing to stress about. There's nothing to worry about. Just give yourself to what you can. Don't, overexhaust yourself. And that's also kind of speaking to myself, and as far as like work back to with Reggie is, bro, him and I, same mentality. She always gives me crap. Always gives me crap about, you need to slow down. You need to do this first. You need to do that first. Because again, it's that cut mentality. And it's like, she's like, you need to first take care of yourself in order to be able to pour into the other things that you're doing.
Agreed.
Right?
Yeah, I 100% agree. It doesn't necessarily pain me that you feel that way, Nicole, but I'm glad that we've brought it up, because for me personally, I can only speak for myself. I yearn for your company. I yearn for your advice. I look for your guidance. I look for your laughter. I look for, in the kindest respect, I look for you to bring out that inner child in me. Because a lot of times when you'll just break down and start dancing just in the middle of the street, it makes me feel like it's okay for me to do those same things. And a lot of times I'm not like 100% comfortable being myself, and you make that so much easier for me. And I can't tell if it's the smoke or if it's me at this point, but I have to tell you thank you. And Andrew is 100% right. That is something that at any point in time you can ask for and lean on. We will be there. Chris and I don't do temporary. Savannah does not do temporary. Mom does not do temporary. We are not temporary people. We're just not. So thank you.
No, honestly, and it's, we're like not trying to get emotional or anything, but it's like, I know for, you've always mentioned it, like you've always looked and wished for a big family. You've always wished for brothers. You've always wished for sisters that are like, you're able to be yourself, and you're able to allow yourself to be who you are, but then also allowing them to be like, yo, Reg, slow it down a little bit, you know what I mean? And to have that balance. And I feel like it's crazy, because I was telling her the same thing. I was like, Reggie's on the same boat. Like, he doesn't come from a big family. You know what I mean? I come from a big family, so I can't really understand. And I was like, he loves the fact that we're here in this group. He loves the fact that we're all together. And I feel like that's definitely something that she's been yearning for as well. And it's like, I know a lot of people, because I used to be in that position when, I didn't really live close to my family and I was kind of doing my own thing. And I know a lot of people, the biggest thing they can take away is surrounding yourself with individuals who have the same mentality as far as goal oriented, that work super, super hard, aren't going to tell you what you want to hear. You know what I mean? Yeah. They're going to tell you what you need to hear, not what you want to hear. And that's the biggest difference. And for her, my biggest thing now is knowing like that I'm going to lead properly, to be able to show her, like, in the past, it was always the same thing. You weren't loved the way you should have been loved. People came in and out. And I know for her, that's a fear of hers. But it's like, now having, this family that we have, I'm like, that's not the case anymore. This isn't a generational thing where you're just going to constantly continue experiencing that same past situations. And I know this change is a good one, especially for me, because it's like I've never been in a situation where I've felt like I'm doing not only building generational wealth, generational knowledge, but I'm doing it with people that I love. You know what I mean? And this is a big change for me, because I'm like, okay, like, is this gonna last? Like, is this gonna, you know what I mean? And as much as, and you say this all the time. You're like, no, this is for the future. This is for, and you constantly remind me. And for me, that's something that I've realized, that as annoying as it can be, because I'm like, Reggie, you said this shit yesterday. You said this. I'm like, holy shit, that's repetition. He's ingraining to me to let me know that, Andrew, I'm telling you the same shit over and over and over, so it sticks to your head that this isn't a temporary thing.
Yeah. Chris, how many times have you heard my security brief in the last like 3 days?
Yeah, multiple times.
It's got to be annoying at this point.
Not necessarily, man. The way I view it is you're a man with a plan.
Yep.
And that's something to be proud of. That's something to admire. I was just thinking about this before you asked me that question. I was thinking we have to have somebody that thinks of the future. We have to have someone that's able to remind us of the past successes. We have to have somebody that keeps us grounded in the present. And I think we have that all here. I actually know we have that all here.
100%.
Really
and
hard for me to not say damn, right?
Damn. And you know what's funny? We had this conversation. We have so many conversations with this man. It's kind of hard to keep up. And what he told me, he's like, what were you telling us? You said you weren't, and I don't want to speak for you. You said something about being concerned or worried as far as like the work ethic and us possibly not being able to. We were on this like 2-3 hour tangent. That's right. We had to go to the gym. We're like, you know what? Let's listen to him. And at the very end, he was saying all this stuff. Sometimes if you sit down with Reggie for an hour, you think you're going to sit down for an hour, it's going to be like 2-3 hours. And because he just wants to talk. And he was going. And then we were just sitting there. And at the very end, he pretty much almost agrees. He's like, nah, you know what? He's like, it's good the fact that you are the way you are. You work hard the way you work. You are 10 steps. And you've said this multiple times. You're 10 steps, 15 steps. You're 3 years ahead of us, 5 years ahead of us. And we're in the present, for the fact that, again, he says we have someone that needs to be in the future, someone that needs to be in the present, and that's literally, you know what I mean? It's literally what it is. And he sometimes has a hard time to being like, okay, it's just constantly reminding.
But check this out. To add to this, that was just a superficial, or not superficial, but that was just surface level of what I was saying. There's also another level to this, which is being a student of each other. Always keep that in mind, bro, because at the end of the day, or anything that I say ever comes from experience and what I do personally. Be a student of each other, because again, somebody is better than you at something, so you have to learn. And at the end of the day, let's just say that you were on your own on vacation and you're planning with your lady to go on vacation. I'm not saying you're a poor planner by any means, but because we've adapted what Reginald has, we're able to kind of adjust our plans now, because we're like, oh wait, you know, what did Reggie mention last time about planning this way? Okay, I can implement that into my plan now. Or what did Saf say about being present in the moment? Oh, let's do that right now. It's important. And you start feeling it. As soon as, well, now I'm going a little tangent here. I promise it won't be too long. If I start feeling anxious, I know it, because my mind gets foggy. I can't think straight, and I know exactly what to do now. I just sit down, write in my journal, on my phone, on my notes for 5 minutes, ask questions of why I'm feeling this way, how can I fix it, boom, problem is solved. Because why? It's clear. You know, things of that nature. But be a student as well, man.
No, 100%. And it's crazy because him and I always be like messaging back and forth, and he's like, man, you and Nicole, y'all need to get my style up, this. And I'm like, yeah, no, for sure, like, we got you. And then I'd be asking him, like, who are you giving me crap for? You giving me crap about like not knowing how to pour wine. I don't know how to pour wine, but he went on this whole thing. He was like, this is how you do it to not get the carbonation if you want the carbon. But it's like little things like that. I'm like, holy cow. And there's a bigger picture, and that's simply like those small things is what I appreciate. But I know that those small things, there's such a bigger picture to it. Because especially if I'm gonna be a steward and he's gonna be a steward to those little small things, then that's the building block for those bigger things. Eventually, I'm gonna start editing shit. I'm going to start doing this. I'm going to start doing that. And it's like, if I can't learn those small things from him, how is he going to expect me to be able to take on the big things? Right?
That's powerful.
I agree.
And so for me, it's like, even in this time with things, I'm mentally preparing myself, because I know as far as hard work, that we're going to be working. And it's not going to be a temporary thing, like I mentioned. We're going to be working. And right now, for me to take that commitment and be like, okay, like, how am I able to be a better student? Those little small things is me mentally preparing myself. And even she tells me, she's like, what are you thinking? And I'm like, honestly, I'm thinking about 10 different things right now. And she's like, I can tell because you're not listening to what I'm saying. I was like, I'm listening, but I'm also taking in 10 other different things. Yeah. And I call it the Reginald Thompson over here, the mentality, the Reggie mentality. Because I'm like, okay, like, I'm just constantly just going for the fact that I know at some point I'm going to be at an advantage because I've practiced from day one, rather than once the time comes to show up, that's where I'm starting. And I'm going to be totally effed because I'm going to be like, oh, this is too much. Rather, if I start ahead, if I'm at preseason right now, I'm like, okay, no, I'm used to this. My mentality, my mind is starting to get to, once I start, I was like, oh, this is a piece of cake, or you know what, this isn't as hard as it was meant to be. And I'm gonna go from there. And again, I appreciate that because I've learned that from you. If not, I can be at home right now chilling watching another show. You know what I mean? But where is that gonna get me? And for me, that's my change right now, is being like, okay, like, if you want to build onto something, you got to mentally prepare yourself and be a student and learning from those who are preparing.
That's a difficult process, and the reason it's a difficult process is, especially for someone like me, I want to go fast and I want to go now. I don't want to wait. You know, they say the best time to plant a tree was yesterday, and unfortunately, in a slight facet, I've embraced that saying a little bit too much, and I had to revamp my mindset when I started embracing the idea of a team, but more importantly, a family. And I realized that there's a better phrase, which is, if you want to go fast, it's true that you can go alone, but if you want to go far, you have to go together. And so for me, the really scary thing still keeps me up at night is when I pump the brakes and I feel like for a moment I'm not moving, because I'm trying to not necessarily wait, but educate each and every one of us on who the other members are, and then collectively decide where we want to go and what our North Star is. And that has not been an easy process for me. And it's funny because I preach things like, I said the other day in a post, I said, when you slow down and you take a break, remember that's not you moving backwards, you're still moving forward. And yet I walk around with that same anxiety, even though I'm the person that said it, and I don't know if it's necessarily purely hypocritical or if it's also just in the moment, that's how you feel. Right. But what helps me is to look to the person left of me and to look to the person right of me, and then I allow my vision to see what I believe they're capable of, which I've said many a time. I genuinely believe I think further for you than you may even think for yourselves. Maybe it's because I'm an outside party and I'm able to witness the greatness that you lay upon this earth. I don't know. But what I do know is this is the way that it should be done, and I'm glad that this is the way that we're doing it. So we could take a quick break and then we can come back from there.
We are back from our little break. So we're kind of talking before, on the first half, we kind of talk about, change, the challenges that we're kind of experiencing with change and where we're at. And then Reggie kind of ended on a good point, and I wanted to kind of raise this question to him. What you as an individual are kind of doing with the challenges as far as change, like what you're doing currently.
Forgive me if I keep my eyes closed in this section. The smoke has not been my friend today. It's a phenomenal question. Two things. Number one, I did kind of touch on it a little bit, which is I take a moment to embrace who you all are to me, and I take a moment to look into your futures, almost like a crystal ball, and see the potential that I believe you all have. And when I see that, it's as a collective, and that's key. You need to remember that as a collective, it's much further than I was ever going to be able to go by myself. So forgive me if there's a little bit of a selfish nature in there, but it is fueled by my belief in you, if that's any consolation. The second thing is I always attempt to challenge myself with what I need and not with what is easy. And what I need most in this world right now is patience. And there was a beautiful quote from a television show where a gentleman said, you know, I asked God for strength and he gave me troubles. I asked God for patience and he gave me moments to be patient in. And at this stage in my life, I have to say, I have never been faced with so many opportunities to work on and develop my patience. And I'm very thankful for it because I asked and I did in fact receive. And I received it in a form that I think was digestible to me, which was through individuals who I believe in. If you want a broader answer, I think that you could look at patience as a conduit for my ability to assess what is possible versus what is today. And you're able to draw that bridge. It is not a linear bridge. It is not a bridge like what you drive over when you are going to another city. That bridge has many turns, it has many ups, and it most certainly has many downs. But what I would encourage people to do in those moments is practice that patience. I think a lot of times we allow life to hold things over our heads. And that really, I think that really limits you as an individual. I have found that if you look at adversity as a chance to grow in any capacity, you will move further than you were the day prior. Not comparing you to anybody else. You will go further than where you were the day prior.
That's awesome. I do have a question because you brought it up twice, and the first time you brought it up was you look at things as opportunities. Did you ever have to change the perspective of an obstacle to an opportunity or a challenge to opportunity? If you ever did, what was your process? Walk us through that process because that's really important.
Every single time that a problem arises.
Okay.
An easy one is I am now in a leadership position at my 9 to 5. I am a manager at a bank. That's what I do to put some bread on the table. And when I came into that space, my largest goal was to be a better manager than my previous leadership, not my immediate previous leadership, but just previous leadership I'd had throughout life. And what I found was that although the grass looked greener, as we all know, it's usually not. I tried to adapt to a form of what I call, or what is referred to in Ray Dalio's book Principles, an idea meritocracy, where we could all present ideas and the best idea presented by whomever, wherever, would be the one that prevailed. And what I found was that although this was what I wanted to implement, there were many steps prior that I was not privy to. One of which was establishing a clear, respectful boundary between the understanding that I am still in leadership and you need to adhere to the direction that I'm taking you initially while we set up this type of structure, right? We've been talking a little bit about systems and the practical nature of how we can implement systems to be effective. Well, if you don't have the respect from the team initially, that is very difficult to do. And so what I did through my patience was I pulled each member aside and I backtracked 5 steps from where I wanted to be, and I asked what they wanted to accomplish. And then I decided to invest into their dreams. And what I heard were many different things, one of which I'll share. One individual I had come to find felt as though she had been slighted by the company, to which I deem is fairly accurate. You see, she had been in a position where her and an almost identical coworker were given two different outcomes on a particular review. And she was given the lesser of the outcomes. And when we reviewed the data, how little of it there was, and I don't mean that as a slight to anybody, but there was little data, I was still able to see that she did not deserve that type of review, or if she did, then the other person should have received the same. And so here is someone who, especially in a minority position as a female in a company, whereas her counterpart in this particular scenario was a male, did not receive the same outcome. And when we look at our diversity and inclusion and our equity standpoints that we adopt as a company, we were not meeting the mark. And so here I am trying to solve for X, and she's worried about Y. Mm-hmm. So how can I ask her to come down from where she is and what she wants to accomplish, right, to then want to accomplish upon my vision? You can't. So through that patience, I was able to better understand what it was that she needed. And now we have been able to elevate her. And if I may say this, she has been able to elevate herself. I have just provided the key to the door, if you will. But she walked through it and did all of the work to get to the door to put her in a better position. And now I could tell that her attention and her focus and her drive and her commitment to the cause that we want to take together is much more on the level that I would have wanted in the beginning, that I would have asked for in the beginning. But I had to go do the groundwork, and through that patience, I was able to find that you need to make sure that you embrace and understand those around you before you start trying to push narratives on them that they have not agreed to meet. Does that answer your question?
It does. That's very powerful. Just to recap, it sounds like from your leadership position, you had to ground yourself and figure out exactly what was going on with the people that were under you in order to for them to understand you and where you wanted to take them.
And if I may adapt, and I know exactly what you mean. I know what you mean. And I just want to adapt on one word just for people listening.
Talk to me.
A true leader does not look at someone as under. Chris knows there's no one under Chris, and he knows. So
100%.
Next to me is the only word I change. And I know he knows, but I want to make sure everyone listening also knows that, this is something I had to do. I, for a time, not in my position of leadership, but prior, looked at people as under or above me. And then I found that to find a truly symbiotic relationship between these individuals where we can both eat, we needed to look at each other as colleagues where we could help one another. Are there moments when I have to step into my position? Yes. Are there moments when I need someone to listen? Yes.
I see what you're saying, and I look at things more factual, and given the fact that you got a position, that was just a fact I was saying. But yes, that is very true. In order to keep a relationship symbiotic, I really agree with that, and that's awesome. But it did answer my question, and that's a beautiful thing, because it's something we can all, again, we learn, we adapt, and we keep pushing it forward.
Yes. Could I, if I may, it's interesting because I try to adapt that into what we do. My superpower that I believe I have, and you all may feel differently, is I plan. The individual who plans is often regarded as the leader. I'm not so much sure that I would like to be regarded as a leader as opposed to I'd rather be regarded as a planner. I would like for my position to be I plan things with you and I show you what could be. It's almost as though if you look at a portfolio fund manager and they approach a client, they say, here's option A, B, and C. Here's what we could do here. Here's what we could do here. And here's what we could do there. And very much like maybe a fund manager, or honestly probably a financial advisor or anyone in that position, they probably are going to lay out a risk tolerance. They're going to say option A is our riskier option. Option B is more of a moderate, and option C is a completely safe option. This is going to be full bonds. That's going to be full stocks, balls to the wall. Elon Musk, please don't smoke any more weed on Joe Rogan's podcast, right? Because you're but that is the interesting thing about me is, and I'm a massive admirer of people like Elon. You all have to be not necessarily the clients, but my team and my family, and let me know, Reg, you can't go full Elon every time, which is what you told me the other night, right? So here in this position, Reggie will 100% try and build a spaceship tomorrow with none of the brilliance of Elon. Let's make it very clear, with none of the brilliance of Elon. And what I would love to emphasize is, through this group, I have already begun to see an adequate balance of energy. We touch on it multiple times. We've already touched on it today, but it's something that if we don't speak on it a little bit more, we may not do it justice. You not only need individuals who can look out for you, but you need individuals who are willing and have the space and the capacity to check your worst impulses. My worst impulse is I will run this Ferrari into the wall tomorrow. And if I may, luckily, I am both kind to myself, but also kind to the world in front of me by making sure that the individuals who sit next to me are individuals who both have the capacity, and I have given them the grace to be able to check that impulse to run that Ferrari into the wall. And that is key. When I'm about to make a bad decision, dude, I almost bought we're not going to say what it was, but I almost made a really stupid purchase the other day. I was at the mall. I'm outside the store. I'm like, I want to walk in the store. And the security guard who's guarding the store gave me a look. And he gives me a look like, respectfully, brother, I don't think you should be in here. And I was like, ego went to like 1,000 just immediately. And as I walked in the store and I was looking around, I was like, I could buy this thing. I've started convincing myself, I want this thing. I want this. And Jennifer, her voice just rang through my head, like clear as day. It was almost like she was standing behind me. And it was like, I swear to God, it said, why the fuck do you need that? Individuals who check your worst impulses, and then you need to rely on them. Let it be a testimony to how much I value each and every one of you through my action or lack thereof. Because I'm not perfect. But with you, I'm a little bit closer.
Perfect to me. You know what's crazy? Just like you say that you appreciate every single one of us, and that Jen, shout out to Jen, she's in the back of your head. I sometimes get into this, because you've said this multiple times. You've said that you feel that you think way better than us than we think of ourselves, because it's very much true. You see so much potential in every single one of us, and you've told myself and Nicole multiple times. And there's been times where because I'm not perfect, I know, so I get in my head, I'm an overthinker. Like I'm big on overthinking, and she knows this. Where with my work ethic, aside from her telling me because I can be stubborn, I've had Reginald Thompson in the back of my head tell me, you're so much better than this. Your potential is way further. And that's gotten me through those tough moments where I'm like, holy crap, I may be feeling kind of shitty right now as far as like wanting to be in a certain stage in life, but we're gonna get there. Like we're, like me and my team, we're gonna get there, and you've honestly, like, I haven't told you this, so this is me telling you this now. You've helped me. The constant repetition of you telling all of us, especially I'm gonna speak for myself, telling me like, dude, your potential is a lot better than you think. Like and you tell me this, honestly, you probably say this like on average 2 times every single time I see you, and I hope you know that I'm not annoyed by it. Keep telling me that. You can even tell me even more, but it's helped me go about my day knowing like, holy shit, I'm better than I'm gonna be better, and I am better than what I think I am at right now in this very moment. And I appreciate that, because again, it's like, I absolutely get that from her, but sometimes I'm so stubborn, and I'm like, obviously she's my girlfriend, so sometimes I'm like, oh, she just told me that because she's my girlfriend. Like I'm just that shit, and so I'm like, I need to hear. She even tells me, she's like, sometimes you just need to hear from someone else, and I'm like, Reggie tells me that all the time, and that's me reminding myself. And so for that, I want to say thank you. And kind of what you touched on as far as like needing to be ourselves because it contributes to this group, whether we think so or not. We talked about it again, you know, with her, for myself as well too. Sometimes I've always felt like, man, like I'm too this or I'm too that, and I've realized I'm like, no, I'm right in this group. I'm who I'm supposed to be, right where I'm supposed to be, and the reason why is because I add value to this team for that reason. I don't have to be another Reggie. I don't have to be another Cristobal. And I've told Nicole this. I was like, you don't have to be another Sav. You don't have to be another Jen. You don't have to be another this or this or this. You have to be Nicole, because Nicole adds value to this team. And I love the fact that all of us are going through these different stages in our life, where we're able to experience all these different stages in our life together, because like you said, we're able to be students to each other, to where now I'm able to learn from you, to being able to be a little slower and being able to have gratitude for, not like that, but like have gratitude in the times that when I need to have gratitude, because she gets on my all the time. And same thing with him. I tell him, bro, you need to slow down, this and this and this, but I don't even take my own advice. And then she comes back to me, she's like, just like what you told Reggie, she's like, you need to apply that to yourself. And I'm like, I am not going to tell her she's right now, because then I'm going to totally feel dumb. And so then now I'm hearing it from Cristobal, and I'm like, bro, like, I'm telling Reggie this, I'm not taking it to myself. Now Cristobal's telling me this, and I'm like, holy shit, like, I do need to sometimes slow down and appreciate this.
And feel comfortable with knowing that there may be days, weeks, months, even years, hopefully not years, but maybe even years, where you feel as though you may not be contributing to the degree that you want to. Mike pulled me to the side the other day, and there was genuine worry on his face, and he said to me, and it hurt my heart to hear him say it, but he was like, I'm really sorry that I won't be able to contribute as much financially to what we're doing. And he was like, I'm worried. And I said, Mike, you've provided this amazing home for us to all be in, and on top of that, if you didn't have that, you provided your love. We don't need anything from you other than to be you. That's all we're really asking, is for you to try. I don't need your money. I don't need your house. I don't need your car. I don't need anything but you. That's the only thing that I require. If I take the shirt off your back, are you still Nicole? Are you still Mike? Are you still Cristobal? Are you still Andrew? That's all I need. Are you still Sab? That's all I need. That's all I need. I need to know when I pick up that phone and I'm down, I can call you, and you and I can go through the storm together. I need people who are willing to fight through the bad times with me. Steve Harvey said, if you are going through hell, why would you stop? Keep going. I need people who want to keep going. That's all I need. I don't need anything. I don't need anything else. I need people who want to keep going, and who want to keep going with me in the capacity of love, in the capacity of honor, in the capacity of integrity. I need people who want to do it, and they want to do it the right way, which is a road less traveled.
Agreed. And to add to that, because you are coming from a perspective, what value can I add? I come from that perspective as well. Keep learning. Just keep learning, bro. At the end of the day, man, like what Reggie said is phenomenal, because I feel the same way. I don't need anything more than you. I mean, anything more from you. Just your presence, your persona, you're you. That's enough. But because your perspective was, what value am I adding? You keep learning. Keep developing what you love. Keep developing in whatever situations you're in, learn from those. That's how you are able to add value to people's lives, man. And what I've seen, my own experience, I remember I told you guys last time I was on the pod was I've been keeping my mouth shut more often because I want to, when I speak, I want to present value. And that didn't happen overnight. I was living in Fresno for about 3 years. And those 3 years, I didn't feel like I was alone because I had Savannah with me, but it was Savannah and myself, to be honest with you guys. I had you guys. I had Reggie for sure. I called Reggie multiple times. He called me back, Mom, for sure. But living in a city where it's, you have to know how to move, and no disrespect to Fresno. People in Fresno are awesome, but just have to know how to move and know how to communicate. I had to step back and make sure that I wasn't speaking sideways to people, right? So that taught me to learn what I was going through, process my feelings, so then I could turn around, and if you're going through something, I can be like, Andrew, I may have some advice that can help because I went through the same thing. Maybe. You see what I mean? And that's how you can add value, bro, in my opinion, is you keep learning what you love and what you're going through.
And if I may, I'm sorry, because my neck is hurting from how much I'm nodding. There has been no faster growth trajectory. You may look at me and be like, Reg is in the future. There's been no faster growth trajectory and no farther growth trajectory than the man on your left. No one in this group has gone for, I'm so sorry. I don't mean any disrespect to any of you. There's been no further, maybe just because I got to see it from an earlier start than I got to see with the rest of you. I could be wrong, but I'm telling you, his ability to shut down his ego and learn, at least if I can only speak between him and I, has blown me out of the water. It has taught me because I decided to listen, watch, and to some degree follow in his direction. There's no issue with leaders following other leaders. The problem is when